Hello, welcome back to Bet Builders. I'm Statman Dave today. I'm joined by Rory Jennings on, of course, free super tips. Today we're going to take you through the second round of Premier League fixtures. We're going to dive into the stats, the action, and of course both of our bets. We're also going to look at free super tips bets as well. Remember to gamble responsibly if you take any of our advice. Now it's time, Rory. The Premier League is back. How was the opening weekend for you?
It was good. Chelsea got a win, which is what I was desperate for. But yeah, it's just so good to have it back, isn't it? I mean, I think people have forgotten just quite what football means, the place it has in society. So yeah, I was delighted to have it back. There's some good games as well.
There was some really good games in that open weekend, and there's going to be more good games. Manchester United and, of course, Man City playing their first game of the season. We're going to be talking transfers today. Manchester United transfers, specifically, maybe a little bit of Chelsea transfers. Still need a goalkeeper.
Yeah, desperately need a keeper.
Desperately need a goalkeeper. We're also going to talk about the big game this weekend.
Which is?
Come on, Rory. You know
okay,
this
good.
one.
No, I mean, I don't want to be seen conceited and just assume everything's about Chelsea. But yeah, Chelsea-Liverpool.
Chelsea-Liverpool is going to be the big one this weekend. We're also going to talk about Aubameyang's new deal. Of course, if you want to check out any more tips, go over to freesupertips.com. They're previewing all the action as well to give their thoughts. Remember, gamble responsibly, Rory. I think it's time to dive into the action.
Let's do it.
Let's take a look at our bets last week, Rory. Do you reckon you can beat us this week?
How'd you do?
We did all right. We got one completely correct.
I can beat that.
The Leicester City winning the game by 2 or more goals, and Jamie Vardy anytime coming in at 7-2. Rory, I think that was a decent bet.
It's a good bet. It's a good bet, but you got one right.
I got one right. James got 0 right, so I took the victory in the first round. So Can you beat me this time?
So I can go top of the league.
You could go top of the league with a few wins under your belt, mate.
Okay, game on.
First up, we're going to talk about the relegation 6-pointer. Leeds versus Fulham, Bielsa versus Scott Parker. And of course, you know, first time out, Leeds United scored 3 goals at Anfield. Fulham on a bit of a hiding by Arsenal and Aubameyang. Were you impressed by any of the sides?
Well, I wasn't impressed by Fulham, that's for sure. Are we calling it a 6-pointer already?
I think we've got to.
Okay, yeah, I mean, you're probably right. The jeopardy for these two clubs is huge. But no, I think Fulham are in for a very tough season. That performance against Arsenal was pitiful at times. So I'm slightly worried about them, and I can't really see them surviving. It's very early for me to go out on a limb like that, but I just can't see them surviving. However, and this isn't going to be particularly popular, Dave, I'm not on this hype train about Leeds. I don't quite see where this optimism amongst their support is coming from. You know, I read a piece that suggested they were going to qualify for Europe.
The first team that were promoted and scored 3 goals at the reigning champions since Hull City did against Manchester United in 2008. You don't think that's a good accomplishment?
That's very impressive, but what isn't impressive is losing the game. And unless I'm mistaken, all the coverage that I've heard, hearing you waxing lyrical there, did they win? Have I mistaken something here? Have they got any points on the board?
I think what you've got to take, right, they are the 6th team in 5 years under Jurgen Klopp to score 3 goals at Anfield. They played really well. They played some lovely, expansive football. There's something there. Compared to, like you mentioned, Fulham, I thought there wasn't much for Fulham. Fulham probably needed another season in the Championship, get their style together, get Mitrovic on the pitch. But Leeds United showed a lot of fight and determination, tackles, possession, the underlaps from central midfield. There was just part of it, Rory, where I thought, look, this is a good Premier League side.
I agree. Look, there were moments, and I can understand why a Leeds fan would cherry-pick the things that you suggested. But ultimately, they're not going to have another game like that. 3 chances, 3 goals. They're not going to be as ruthless as that. I can guarantee you. I know Patrick Bamford very well, not personally, as a footballer. And I just can't see where this enthusiasm for them is coming from.
OK, is Patrick Bamford in your bets, Rory? Let's dive into those right now.
Of course he's not.
No. Absolutely not. Doesn't, but Mitrovic does. A player that started on the bench, 26 goals last season in the Championship, wasn't great against Arsenal. Do you think he can make the difference against Leeds United?
I think he can. I think he's got a very good track record of scoring against this level of opposition. And let's be frank, if Fulham are to get anywhere this season, it's going to be because of him. And I think that they need him. They're going to tailor their game around what he's good at, and they need to get some points on the board in this fixture. I think they will. Also going with the draw, do you think Leeds United are going to concede? They're going to score? Who's going to grab the goal for them? I'm not sure with Leeds. I mean, what they have at their disposal is they've got an excellent goal threat, haven't they? I don't rate Bamford, but again, of course, he leading the line, he can score. He scored the other day. His confidence will be high. I wouldn't put it past him. So there are your bets, Rory. Let's take a look at my bet. Slightly different. I'm backing Leeds United to win the match. I think after that performance in Anfield, there's going to be confidence in the squad. You're looking at Click, you're looking at Pablo Hernandez, you're looking at Harrison on the wing. I think Leeds are going to win by 3 or more goals. They won 3-0 against Fulham in the reverse fixture last season. I'm just backing Leeds United and Bielsa, Rory. See, this is what I'm talking about. How can you have seen enough in a 4-3 defeat to now predict that they're going to win 3 or more? Not having it.
So we've looked at my bets, we've looked at Rory's bets, now it's time to look at FST's bets. They're the experts here, Rory, so they've gone Leeds to win the match as well. They've gone Bamford anytime and over 2.5 goals in the game. Quite similar to my bet, Rory.
Quite similar to your bet. They've seen Bamford as a threat as well, which I can see where they're coming from. The confidence here. Look, it could happen. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. I just don't see where it's coming from.
Rory, you're going to have a lot of egg on your face come the end of the season when Leeds finish in the top 6. It's going to be very embarrassing with Patrick Bamford as the top scorer. Rodrigo had a good cameo though off the bench, so maybe Bielsa will mix up the side. So that may be a slight gamble of this bet. But 11-2, that is great odds, and I think it's a good bet.
Yeah.
Next up, Manchester United versus Crystal Palace. Of course, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's men did not play in game week 1 after their Europa League campaign, whereas Crystal Palace took a surprise win at Southampton, Rory.
Yeah, very good win for them. I didn't see that one coming either.
Do you think that Roy Hodgson can masterclass another result? Old Trafford will beat United 2-1 last season?
I don't think the reason they could win the game is a Roy Hodgson masterclass. I think they could win the game. They could win the game. I don't actually... Look, my prediction isn't that. But it wouldn't be that surprising if they were to win it. But whatever happens, it will not be a Roy Hodgson masterclass. Because that doesn't exist.
Maybe a Wilfried Zaha masterclass again. It's shop window. The transfer window is still very much open.
Yes, that's a thing. He's going to have a point to prove against his old club. And look, he needs to leave that club. I really believe that Zaha... What's best for Zaha is also best for Palace. And I think he needs to leave. And there's no better way to do it than steering your team to a victory at Old Trafford.
Absolutely. Manchester United, of course, signing one player in the window, Donny van der Beek. Top quality player from Ajax, a midfielder that can move off the ball, can link between the lines. But you're looking at Jaden Sancho, Rory. You're looking at Alex Telles. 2 players that United fans are screaming out Ole Gunnar Solskjaer needs to bring in.
Yeah, it's been a slightly underwhelming window so far for Manchester United. That obviously changes if they end up signing Jaden Sancho. But so far, it isn't quite the window I expected them to have. I thought that having finished third on the same points as Chelsea last year, they'd use that as a springboard to really back Solskjaer and really go for it this summer. And it hasn't quite happened yet.
Very much yet. The window is still open. And look, if Alex Telles or Jaden Sancho joins Manchester United, massive, massive moves. We forget that Anthony Martial and Marcus Rashford scored 17 Premier League goals apiece last season, and Mason Greenwood 10.
Yeah, it's a very good front line. It's actually a very intimidating front line. You know, I think when you're a United fan, as you are, I think sometimes you don't quite see it through the same lens as we do. And as a Chelsea fan, I'm very scared of that front line. I also think that your midfield, that 3 that you have there is beautiful, isn't it? It's so well balanced and they're excellent players. And for me, Paul Pogba is one of the best at what he does in the world. So there is so much to be positive about for Manchester United, but I do think that you're going to need something to galvanise this side.
But do United have enough for the game against Crystal Palace?
That's the key.
Let's take a look at your bets, Rory. Going to dive on screen now. So you got United to win the game, so you are backing them.
Yes, I think they have to. They have to get off. They have to launch their campaign with a win at home to Palace. They just have to.
Simple as that. And Bruno Fernandez anytime. I like that bet. Since joining Manchester United, Bruno Fernandez has been directly involved in 50% of United's goals in the Premier League. He's the greatest signing ever in January for me.
I think there's something in that. I can't really remember a player signing for a club that has just risen the tide. You know, a player lands. I mean, thinking about the Manchester United thing, maybe Eric Cantona did it when he landed, but I genuinely can't think of one player that has just arrived at a club, Rudhulit at Chelsea, but it's that level.
Aubameyang, probably later on we'll talk about him. He had a similar impact coming in January, scoring a load of goals. Does he make my bet though? Bruno Fernandez.
He better.
He better make my bet. You see, I'm kind of playing away from it. I'm thinking that Manchester United are going to go on to win the game. I think Crystal Palace and how they played against Southampton, they sat deep, they allowed Southampton the ball. I think, like you're saying, with Bruno Fernandez fit, firing, the goals, the assists that he can do, I think United are going to win the game. But I've got both teams to score. I thought Zaha took up some really good positions against Southampton. He sat behind the fullback and looked to get him behind the defence. So I think he might score or create something. Maybe a penalty, maybe a chance out of nothing to get Palace on the score sheet. But I'm going to back Manchester United. Now let's take a look at FST's tips for this game as well, because those guys know exactly what they're doing. So Rory, we're going somewhere here. Manchester United to win again. We've both got that. Anthony Martial to score any time. I like the look of that as well.
I do as well. Look, he's a glorious player. And I think the 3 that we mentioned before, for me, he's the jewel in the crown. I know he's older. I know he should be a slightly more elite striker than the other 2. But I just think that there is so much ability in this chap's locker. And yeah, I think, look, him to score any time. He's going to want to... He finished the season very well. He's going to want to pick up where he left off. And yeah, there's no reason why that doesn't come in.
Absolutely. Again, the 17 league goals last season. He's going to improve. I think 20 for him this season has got to be a target. I think he's got to take it in a way how Cristiano Ronaldo sort of jumps up. He had those targets. He's got to meet the targets and move forward. But the thing that really impressed me wasn't his goals last season. It's movement off the ball. It's the work rate. It's the link-up play with Marcus Rashford. He's now, for me, a more complete forward than he was previously, and that makes me happy. You're seeing a young player at your team going. Both teams to score as well. We already mentioned Wilfried Zaha. Is anyone on for Crystal Palace that you're looking at? You're thinking that guy could maybe grab a goal for them?
Weirdly, it's not, because I think Palace have a very uninspiring front line. I don't think the reason... I think there's something in this, but I don't think the reason is because of what Palace are going to offer. I think the reason there's something in this is because Manchester United's backline is vulnerable.
Now over to the Emirates for Arsenal versus West Ham. Arsenal have had a very, very good few months, Rory. Great end to the season, FA Cup win. Aubameyang signs a new deal. They beat Fulham 3-0. It's got to be great to be an Arsenal fan right now.
I'm very envious of what they've got up to silverware-wise. I mean, look, I don't put that much stock in the Charity Shield, but whatever spin you put on it, they won 2 trophies in the same month, and that is huge for their club. So yeah, I think Arteta's done very well, and this is a good fixture for Arsenal. They've started the season. The draw has been very kind for them, hasn't it? You know, you start away at Fulham and then you have West Ham at home, both of whom are my tips to go down.
That is harsh, Rory, very, very harsh. But let's focus on Aubameyang. Since joining Arsenal, only Mohamed Salah has scored more Premier League goals. He is so key to them. This new deal is massive for Arsenal Football Club. Yeah,
look, you know, I think that we can often judge a player on their ability to potentially drag their team to victories that they otherwise wouldn't get. I can remember, for example, Michael Owen won Liverpool the FA Cup. They were playing Arsenal, they were 1-0 down, 2 minutes to go. Owen dragged his team to victory, they won 2-1. That's what Aubameyang does. Aubameyang won Arsenal the FA Cup. When you're a player like that, you are elite. You are taking your team to victories that they otherwise wouldn't achieve. And everything good around Arsenal revolves around Aubameyang. Flawless football player. I would love to see him in a blue shirt.
That would be a bit of a dodgy transfer considering he's just signed a new deal, but we'll keep that in there. I think positionally as well, playing on the left-hand side, I think it really suits his game, running in behind the defence and putting the ball into the back of net. Rory, does he make your bet? So that's the key thing. Aubameyang, we've waxed lyrical about him. Is he in? He absolutely is. Score any time. You've got to back him after the game against Fulham?
He's just an elite striker. There isn't a flaw in his game either. I think if you look at what he did in the FA Cup final, it's the movement. Like Cesar Azpilicueta is a very good defender, but the movement that he played to allow the assist to come over, he made the assist look good. It wasn't a particularly good ball, but his movement made it that good. And yeah, I rate him so highly. He's a masterful striker.
Absolutely, 8 goals in the last 6 games as well. He is in red-hot form right now. Arsenal to win the game as well. You're not fancying West Ham at all. Over 3.5 goals. So this is something I've kind of gone with as well, Rory. Why are you backing that as a bet?
They're all going to Arsenal, by the way.
So Arsenal going to win 5, 6, 4?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, why not? I think this West Ham team are in disarray. I think they're probably the one club that are happy that they haven't got fans in the stadium at the moment, because their fans would be irate with what's going on at that club. And yeah, I just cannot see any alternative apart from an Arsenal win, but also an Arsenal tonking win.
Well, my bet is exactly the same as yours, Rory, in terms of Arsenal looking to push forward in the game. We've got Aubameyang anytime, both teams to score. I think Mikel Antonio could be the guy. If he scores against Arsenal in the away game, he would have grabbed 7 out of the last 8 away goals for West Ham United. So if there's anyone that can do it, it's him. He had probably the best XG for West Ham United against Newcastle. So I think there's a goal in there. And again, I think there's going to be goals. How West Ham played against Newcastle, I was really surprised. I watched them at the back end of the season against Manchester United. I thought they were sensational. Little Mark Noble popping up in the hole, creating chances with Declan Rice in midfield and Souček getting into the box. And Antonio, the hold-up play, I thought they were really good, and I was surprised how poorly they played. I don't think David Moyes' teams play 2 games on the bounce that poorly, especially against the top side. I think David Moyes' teams traditionally are better against the top 6 sides. So that's why I think there's going to be goals, both teams to score, and you've got to back Aubameyang. Should we take a look at FST's tips for this game as well? We've got Arsenal to win by 2 or more goals. We are big backing Arsenal today on the show. They're 3-4-3, absolutely sensational. Aubameyang again, anytime. Rory, we're doing some good stuff. And then most goals in the second half. I was actually looking at Arsenal's home games. They score predominantly a lot of their goals last season were under Mikel Arteta in the second half of games. So could be a good bet as well, Rory.
Yeah, I can definitely see that one coming in.
Now on to the game of the weekend, Chelsea versus Liverpool. It gave us 8 goals in the last time these two met each other. Rory, it's going to be a banger, right?
It's probably going to be a banger, yeah. I mean, these are 2 sides that are really enjoying their time at the moment. You know, Chelsea, the feeling around the club is brilliant, and Liverpool champions. So this is real coming together. And I'm weirdly optimistic. I'm even more optimistic now. Like as the game gets closer, I'm feeling more and more confident.
Well, it's an interesting one because Chelsea, they weren't great against Brighton. You got to, they won the ball back for the WERNER goal. It was a high transition penalty. The wonder goal from Reece James was absolutely cracking, and it was a bit of a sloppy corner to concede from Brighton as well. But they won the game. You're looking at Hakim Ziyech maybe fit, Christian Pulisic maybe fit. Starting to look like a pretty dangerous Chelsea team going forward.
Yeah, and do you know what's crucial as well, Dave? Mateo Kovacic has served his ban. And for me, he's such a good football player. He's such a complete midfielder. He does everything that I want from a midfielder. I mean, you could level the fact that he doesn't score enough goals as criticism. You'd be onto something, but I can tolerate that because of everything else he offers. And he should be back in the starting lineup.
In terms of the new signings, though, Rory, which one impressed you the most for Chelsea?
I mean, it's Timo Werner. It's just so lively. Very handsome chap.
Brother Timo, of course.
I just think that he's electric, and in that game against Brighton, he displayed everything I hoped he would. You know, just that constant threat, that constantly being on the defenders, electric pace, electrifying. And I think he's going to score bundles of goals this season, starting against Liverpool.
Absolutely. I think, he's going to be looking at Liverpool as well because it was rumoured that Klopp and Werner had spoken in the off-season for that move to Anfield. And I think he's going to be hungry. Look, I've watched Timo Werner for the last 5 seasons, and he is that good.
Yeah, you're a fan of his, aren't you? You rate him very
He's
highly.
an unbelievable footballer, and we've not even seen the best of him yet. I think what would be good for Werner is playing with an Abraham or playing with a Giroud, actually having someone near him that he can play off. If he starts left, starts right, starts at number 10, that's where I'd start to see a really exciting Timo Werner. Did really well with the target man RB Leipzig, but less on that. Now let's talk about Liverpool. Liverpool are a really interesting proposition. The 4-3 win against Leeds showed the character, the fight we've always seen from Jurgen Klopp. Gary Neville as well, talking about Mohamed Salah and saying that he's going to catch Lionel Messi this season in terms of best player in the world. What do you make of that, Rory?
I rate Salah very highly. That to me feels slightly generous, but Salah would certainly be my tip for Golden Boot. I think he's deadly, isn't he? He's deadly, and I think what we have to do now is we have to really acknowledge quite the longevity. It's 3 years on the spin now. He started this season fantastically well, and look, Salah's terrifying. He scored a great goal against us last season or season before at Anfield, season before, and look, Liverpool's front line is so just deadly. So we have to be very fearful of him. But I think we can keep him quiet. Our back line looks slightly rejuvenated. Could do with getting Chilwell in as soon as possible. But it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, it was quite interesting when Lamptey down the right-hand side for Brighton kept on beating Marcus Alonso. So that might be an angle for Liverpool with Trent, with Mohamed Salah, as you mentioned. But Rory, let's dive into the bets because there's a lot of statistics. I'm ready to get out for Mohamed Salah. Rory, this is your bet. Both teams to score, Werner to score a goal.
Yeah, I think that Liverpool's back line, I concede that Virgil van Dijk isn't going to have a game like that again that he had the other day against Leeds. But I think that they're slightly more vulnerable. I think that Trent Alexander-Arnold was exposed. I saw a side to his game that I hadn't really noticed before. Virgil van Dijk, shaky. Even I thought the keeper wasn't up to his usual standard. So there's something there to suggest that Chelsea can get something. We're also good going forward. We're really good going forward. So there's no reason why we don't score a goal. I think this man's going to get off the mark. I think you're right. There was talk. I mean, there was a moment, wasn't there, towards the end of last year where Werner to Liverpool almost felt like a foregone conclusion. So he's going to have a point to prove there and show them what they're missing out on. And I think this can be okay.
I really like that bet. I think it's concise. It's to the point. I think Werner probably should have got a goal against Brighton. Both teams to score. Is an interesting one. If we take a look at my bets, I've got that in as well. And the interesting thing, you mentioned Virgil van Dijk, who's made 2 errors directly leading to goals in the last 4 Premier League games versus 0 in his last 154.
Wow.
So you mentioned that he's a little bit shaky, and that's completely correct. So both teams to score goes into my bet as well. I've also got Salah anytime. I can't look past this. Most dribbles in the game, most passes in the final third, 9 shots on goal, most chances created, and of course he scored the hat-trick. I can't look past Mohamed Salah dominating this game, especially if Marcus Alonso starts at left back for Chelsea. Yeah. Sorry, Rory. I'm also going to go for Liverpool to win the game. I think this is a game where Liverpool might be a little bit more awake. I thought the Leeds game, they got caught out a bit with the pressing, with the style. Chelsea didn't look like they quite had their press down for me against Brighton. I think it's going to be an interesting one to see how they can cope. Trent Alexander-Arnold, after having one bad game, he's going to want to have a good game. And I think he's been quite good against Chelsea in recent years.
Yeah, he scored a peach of a goal against us as well. And do you know what? Hearing your Salah's stats there has really scared me. My confidence is waning, Dave.
That is not good. And if Mohamed Salah scores, Liverpool go on to win. He's got the best record in the Premier League in terms of goals scored, and his team going to win 35 times he's scored and Liverpool have gone on to win. So it's a bit of a danger for you, Rory, to say the least. Shall we take a look at FST's tips for the game? We've got a Chelsea draw double chance, Werner to score, and over 2.5 goals in the game. We've spoke about Werner to score already. I think that's a great bet. Right there, not only because of Werner's pace, his ability to get behind the Liverpool line, but as well that little bit of something there between him and Klopp right now, a little bit of feistiness. Over 2.5, kind of agree with that. It's going to be goals galore.
Yes, I can see there being... Look, both teams have a very lively attack, dazzling attack in Liverpool's case, and both teams have their weaknesses at the back. Suggest goals.
The Chelsea double chance draw is an interesting one for me. I just can't see Liverpool not winning this game. I don't know why. Maybe I've got that blinkers on, that Premier League prediction blinkers on. I think Liverpool are going to win the Premier League. But I just feel Chelsea a little bit too open at the moment.
Yeah, there is that. But I must go back to that other point. We should now be able to play a midfield of Kante and Kovacic.
Yeah, which is a massive upgrade.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So with a bit of luck, we will look more secure. And that back line, it didn't look good. It didn't look good at all times against Brighton. But, Lampard's got to be working on that. So we should be a little less rusty.
Now on to Leicester City. They come into the game with Burnley after beating West Brom comfortably 3-0. What have you made of Brendan Rodgers in 2020, though? A little bit stop-start campaign for them.
Yeah, well, it was terrible last season. The fact that they didn't qualify for the Champions League can only be viewed as failure. I'm really not sympathetic to his cause at all. They were so far clear of us. So much so that most people had actually awarded them a Champions League spot. The fact that they managed to drop out of it, finish below two sides, really is something that Brendan Rodgers is going to have to look at and analyse and try and put right, because it's almost unforgivable.
That's why we brought you on. For these hot takes, it's beautiful.
Do you disagree?
But no, I don't, because they were 12 points clear of fourth place in November. They absolutely bottled it.
The other thing is, Dave, it's not as if Chelsea and Manchester United then went on this brilliant, insurmountable run.
No.
We were
Stop-start
average.
as well. Yeah.
We were so average. It really took some doing to finish below us last season. We were dropping points left, right and centre. Terrible from Rodgers.
So if Brendan Rodgers had a poor season, one man that didn't, Sean Dyche again, Jay Rodriguez, Chris Wood, they had the season of their lives, scoring the most goals in a single campaign. Tarkowski stays. Dwight McNeil as well, in some expected assist models, ranks number 3 for me behind Trent and
player.
Kevin De Bruyne.
He's a good player. And do you know who else I'm a huge fan of and would actually love him to sign for Chelsea? Nick Pope. I think he's a great keeper. I really do. Dyche has done a wonderful job there, but I'm not sure how long he's going to hang around. I thought he was furious. Did you see? I think it was towards the end of last season. He actually named 2 keepers on the bench. I think that was a message to the board to just say, look, this is the squad I've got. I don't have enough players to put... I have to put 2 keepers on the bench. And I think that, once those cracks start appearing... Look, I'm a Chelsea fan. I've seen my fair share of managerial issues.
Slowly sinking.
I know how it starts. And I think once a manager starts flagging issues publicly like that, 2 keepers... I think it could be the beginning of the end for Dyche.
I've also seen that with Jose Mourinho recently as well, which is quite interesting. Exactly. Jeff Hendrick as well got an assist on his debut for Newcastle. So they're looking like a different Burnley, Rory. But how are your bets looking for this game? Because I've just got a feeling Leicester City may go through. What are you looking for?
I think Leicester will win because this man is so good. I rate Jamie Vardy so highly, and I think that for some reason he isn't necessarily given the plaudits that he deserves. He is an elite level striker. You can talk about him in the same way that you can talk about only a couple of strikers in the Premier League.
Aubameyang, Mohamed Salah, he's ranked number 3 in that list that I mentioned before.
Absolutely.
When Aubameyang joined Arsenal, those 3 guys have been scoring goals.
Dave, I completely agree, but do you know what you don't hear enough? You just did it perfectly. But you don't hear Vardy's name mentioned around the players that you've just suggested, and it should be. Do you know what I think is incredible about him as well? It's the variety of goal he can score. He's very good in the box, he's good outside the box, he runs channels all the time. He's a masterful striker, and I think that every time Leicester play, particularly aside bottom half, I always fear that he could run riot.
I'm a little bit worried about the 2 or more goals, Rory, because the game was quite tight last season. Both games finished 2-1 between the sides. Burnley grabbed 1, Leicester City grabbed 1. Vardy as well, I thought he was quite poor against West Brom, but scored the 2 penalties.
Yeah.
So it's like that is kind of Jamie Vardy on his bad day.
Yeah, exactly.
So it seems like we're speaking a lot about bad days for players in the opening day of the Premier League season, like they've had 2 weeks off and not been able to train properly before and so forth. But no, I like that bet, Rory. It's a good bet. Let's take a look at my bet now. Does it feature Jamie Vardy? Absolutely not. It's Harvey Barnes. He's the man to watch out for. I thought Harvey Barnes was really good against West Brom. He topped the XG for that game. But as well, you've got to look at him as a player. He's a player that's always had something about him. He had 5 shots against West Brom, the most on the pitch. In the previous game, last season, he grabbed 2 assists against Burnley. I think this time he's going to believe it. Well, let's move on to FST's tips now, right in the studio. So they've gone Burnley draw, double chance. I quite like that as a bet as well. I think Sean Dyche knows how to play ugly, knows how to win game. Chris Wood.
Yeah.
What a season he had last year. Horrible to play against. Rory, imagine if you mark Chris Wood for a game.
No, you hate it. And what he does, he makes it a war of attrition. Defenders hate that. Your team love it. What he can do, he can relieve pressure so brilliantly. You know, when Vardy and whoever's leading the line for Leicester putting the pressure on, they clear it, Wood wins a free kick. Invaluable.
And as well, Leicester City got a little bit of problem at centre-back. Indeed, he played there last week. Johnny Evans still suspended, I believe. And as well, I like this as well, under 2.5 goals. The interesting side with Burnley, the game against Norwich back end of the season, Norwich were down to like 9 men, and they only won 2-0. But that was a very Burnley performance, and that's why the under 2.5 goals is a great bet. I'd probably back this over our bet. Sorry, Rory.
What, you prefer this to
I actually prefer this bet. I think FST have done great here. They've smacked it.
Yeah, do you know what, actually, with a bit of reflection, I kind of think that is a fairly decent bet as well. Do that one, ignore mine.
Before we dive into our last game, Rory, I've got a question for you.
Okay, put me on the spot.
So Wolves, one of only 2 teams to beat City home and away in the Premier League last season. Who was the other side?
Manchester United.
Bang, correct. 20 points to you, Rory. Congratulations. It was an interesting game, the second game of the 2 last season between the 2 sides. Of course, City lost Ederson, got sent off. Then they were 2-0 up and they ended up losing the game 3-2.
Yeah.
Surely they should have bought a centre-back in the summer transfer window then, Rory?
I imagine they still will. Koulibaly, the talk of Koulibaly is amplifying constantly, isn't it? So I feel like that one will probably happen. I still think Wolves can do something here, though. I think Wolves are mesmerising, aren't they? The way that they've gone about their business, you know, they've had all that money come in from China, they've spent it very well, and I think that they are now. Look, Wolves are going to have a good season. Wolves could easily finish top 5.
That is a big, big statement. Now let's look at your bets, Rory. Are you backing Wolves in this game, or are you going to sit with Pep Guardiola's Manchester City? And we have it there, Wolves to win the game, both teams to score.
Yeah,
you're a bold man.
It's very bold.
I appreciate it.
It's very bold. Look, the obvious and easy choice here is to say that Manchester City win the game. But I've seen enough in City over the past, I thought the way they went out of the European competition, for example, was flimsy, borderline embarrassing.
Yep,
and I
agree with
think that this season for Guardiola, the pressure really is on. People are doubting Guardiola for the first time in a long time, and I think Wolves could be the team to really exploit that.
I think one man that is going to be key in this game for Wolves, Raul Jimenez, scored a goal and grabbed 3 assists against City last season in those 2 games in the Premier League. He looks so good as a forward, and Wolves have done so well to keep him. Who are you looking for City, though? This is going to be a bit of a ding-dong battle for you, Rory. You've got both teams to score in there as well.
Do you know who I think needs to step up? I think Gabriel Jesus. I think this is his season. Sergio Aguero has been such a good striker, hasn't he, for so long. I mean, he really is up there. He's up there. Shearer, Henry, legendary strikers. And it's kind of coming to an end for him. This is his moment. Gabriel Jesus really does need to lead that City line now and dominate. Is he that man, though? I don't think he is.
Again, I'd quite like to see Sterling in that central position. I'd quite like to see Kevin De Bruyne potentially play in that central position at times as a false 9. I kind of agree. Gabriel Jesus has not really lived up to the expectation. But my bets, I am backing Manchester City, though, Rory. I thought they looked good to a point against Wolves. I thought that they found a bit of an answer. In being 2-0 up, I thought they found something. KDB deep through balls behind the back line, runs from the wide areas. I thought they'd found something there. Sterling grabbed the brace. I thought they were rocking in this game, even with 10 men. So I've gone City or draw, because I think there's still something that Wolverhampton Wanderers have. Jimenez to score, as I mentioned the stats before. Kevin De Bruyne to score any time as well. I think he's going to be angry.
I think that's a really good bet. This lad is as dazzling as it gets. There's no reason to not do that virtually every time Manchester City play. However, I just think that this Wolves side could be too explosive for them. And I hope they are.
They could be. Of course, Wolves scoring 2 goals in the opening 6 minutes of their first Premier League game against Sheffield United. But I think Kevin De Bruyne, on penalties as well, backs that further in terms of a bet. So that's what I've gone with. Now let's take a look at FST's tips for the game. They've got both teams to score as well. I think that's a very popular one. Sterling anytime. I also really like that bet. That tactical thing I mentioned before, that movement from in to out. Sterling, arguably the best in the league at that, Rory.
I am I'm on the fence about Raheem Sterling.
On the fence. City stopped scoring all competitions. 7 more goals than any other player. 31 in all comps.
There is a case to be made. Of course, he is a phenomenal talent.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting he isn't for 1 second. However, what City need and what people are expecting him to become is that next level player. And I am not convinced he is that.
So if you look at the ages compared to like Salah and Mane, a little bit younger. He's just about to come into that first sort of season. Mohamed Salah scored 30 goals in terms of age.
Yes.
I kind of agree. You think about the miss against Lyon. We can't ignore that.
You can't.
Even though I'd love to defend Raheem Sterling, I think that was a big part of their season. But the interest is that most goals in the second half as well. I've got another stat for you. So Wolves scored 5 goals against Man City last season, 4 of which came after the 80th minute. So that is another. Well, maybe back in FST again, Rory.
I know, we've got to stop doing this. We're not very loyal to our own bets, are we?
No. Well, there you have it. We have built some bets today, Rory. Thanks for coming along. Go and check out Rory on social media, on Instagram, on Twitter, all of that good stuff. And of course, go on to freesupertips.com to get out all the tips for the second week of the Premier League. Gamble responsibly. I've been Statman Dave, and we will see you next time.